Shabbat Shalom, and thank you. Thank you for being here. I'd like to start by orienting us within this week's Torah portion and reflecting on how our story, the Jewish people's, CBST's, and my own, is intertwined with this part of the Tanakh. Vayakhel-Pekudei is a double parsha positioned towards the end of the book of Exodus. The Israelites have already left Egypt and are now wandering in the wilderness. The episode of the golden calf is behind them, and they are beginning to figure out how to orient themselves as a people. In Vayakhel, Moshe gathers the Israelites and reminds them of the commandment to keep Shabbat, emphasizing that no work is to be done. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha uvayom chashvi'i yehiyeh lachem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton ladonai. Or in English, 6 days work shall be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to God. It continues with an appeal from Moshe asking the Israelites to donate precious gifts, gold, silver, precious stones, and fabrics to build the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary that the Israelites will travel through the desert with. Moshe appoints skilled craftsmen to oversee the project, and they later tell him that the Israelites have brought so many gifts that they actually need to stop. When I read this, I couldn't help but laugh. As the treasurer of CBST, I can confidently say I would never turn away any gifts from our community and beyond. Pekudei describes the detailed record keeping of the work completed and materials used in the construction of the Mishkan, as well as donations given by the Israelites. Going through the adult B-Mitzvah program, I wondered why I chose this portion. But in hindsight, my accountant brain must have connected to this detailed accounting of everything it takes to create a holy space for the Israelites. The timeline of this Torah portion coincides with some major milestones in CBST's story. In early February, our community celebrated Anniversary Shabbat, marking 53 years since the founding of our synagogue. In early April, the community will celebrate 10 years since we've moved into this sanctuary. Vayakhel-Pekudei falls exactly between these 2 points. At the end of the portion, once the construction of the Mishkan is completed, God's presence fills the sanctuary. Vayekas he'anan et ochel moed ukevod Adonai male et chamishkan. Or in English, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of God filled the tabernacle. When the cloud lifts, the Israelites know that it's time to continue their journey, interpreting this to mean that God is with them throughout their journeys in the wilderness. And with that moment, the book of Exodus comes to an end. In thinking about my Parsha and what I wanted to say, I realized there are so many jewels in this text to speak about. I would like to focus on the overall theme of what it means to build a home for the Jewish people. Building a home requires structure, both tangible and intangible. The mitzvah of Shabbat creates sacred time, and the Mishkan creates sacred space. Both offer the Israelites a place to start as they rebuild their identities after being driven out of the only world they had known. When the Israelites leave Egypt, they are not just physically displaced, they are socially and spiritually disoriented. They are no longer enslaved, yet they are not settled. Their first attempt at creating a structure for worship, the golden calf, doesn't go well. But the Mishkan represents a second attempt, this time guided by purpose, collaboration, and shared responsibility. The Israelites have only recently begun their wanderings and have no idea how long they will be in the wilderness. Despite all of the uncertainty, and perhaps because of it, the Israelites commit themselves to building structures that will help them succeed, including building a safe and holy space, as well as agreeing to a set of rules to live by. Throughout their time in the desert, the Israelites are trying to figure out who they are. The experience of wandering and searching for belonging has echoed throughout history. Many groups know what it means to live between homes: the Israelites, queer people, Jews, immigrants, and so many others. The CBST community was born in the desert, out of necessity, because there was no place for our founders could be both queer and Jewish. I'm reminded of the verse from Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, Ve'asu lemikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, translated in English as, build for me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. The founders of CBST, like the Israelites, had no home to be fully themselves. Since no such home existed, the only option was to build one. And now, 53 years later, we are blessed to be here in our beautiful Mishkan with rituals and a vibrant community where all are welcome. If I may be so bold to say, God's presence certainly does dwell among us. After World War II and the Holocaust, it made perfect sense that the Jews created the state of Israel. Having been massacred with no other place to go, the world was a completely inhospitable place for Jews. The founders of the state of Israel naturally concluded that since no home existed for the Jewish people, they would have to build one themselves. Just as with building of the Mishkan, this home for the Jews would ensure that God's presence would dwell among them. Like many homes under construction, the story of Israel is complicated and continues to evolve. Since its founding, Israel has faced constant threats and conflict while also wrestling internally with what it means to be both a Jewish and democratic state. Building, planning, creating, and protecting a home for the Jewish people is a fundamentally Jewish value, and part of what it means to live out and proud as a Jew. Living openly and proudly as a Jew used to not be a controversial position. But sadly, in a post-October 7th world, here we are. Not only are we defending the right for the state of Israel to exist, we are constantly apologizing for the leadership failures that have led to where we are today, and apologizing for taking up space. I would personally like to say that I've had enough of this. In recent times, living out and proud as a gay woman has been easier for me than living out and proud as a Jew who believes in the right of the state of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. I believe it is possible to condemn the atrocities in the endless wars waged by the current administration without giving up on the country itself. This is a nuanced conversation that people must not shy away from. Living out and proud as a Jew is a fundamentally Jewish value. Nearly every holiday that we celebrate as a Jewish people is the result of some struggle to eliminate the Jews surviving despite this, and then rejoicing. Finally, I would like to share about how building a home for the Jewish people has come up in my family. For context, I'm a first-generation American with immigrant parents from the former Soviet Union. My family left St. Petersburg because there was no way for them to be who they are where they were. They came to the United States to build a life for themselves and live freely as Jews. This year in September, we will be celebrating 40 years in the United States. Building a home for the Jewish people is not a linear journey. It is one that is iterative, where some parts happen simultaneously while others happen chronologically. The wisdom in the Torah lies in its structure. The foundational concepts remain the same, but the interpretation and execution changes. We are given the commandment to keep Shabbat, but what does keeping Shabbat actually mean? The Torah was written long before electricity, elevators, or apartment buildings existed. And yet, in modern times, we sometimes see very little interpretations of these laws. It is not an uncommon scene to see many Jewish families schlepping down 5 flights of stairs with children and strollers in tow in order to avoid using electricity and observe Shabbat. If the Torah were given to us today, the authors would probably be horrified to see the result that such a strict interpretation of this commandment yields. Situations like this highlight an important tension. The commandment itself is ancient and enduring, but the world we live in is constantly changing. Applying timeless teachings to modern life inevitably requires interpretation. We are given structures as a framework, ones we should be constantly refining, adjusting, and improving on as our needs change. Tradition is not meant to be static. Ritual is important, but it changes too. We no longer practice Judaism with animal sacrifice, choosing instead to focus on prayer, study, and communal life. The important thing is the substance over form. Wrestling with these questions is also a fundamentally Jewish value. The Torah's teachings are timeless, but how we interpret them is an entirely different matter. Why else would we read the same scroll over and over again, year after year, and have new interpretations of it? Learning Torah is only possible when there is a home for the Jews. Step 1, build it. Step 2, learn it. Step 3, debate it. This is the journey of the Jewish people. Regardless of how, it is the journey from chaos to peace, from the wilderness to a more permanent home, done through structure, ritual, community, and intention. In this week's Parshat, once the Mishkan is finally built, the cloud descends and God's presence fills the sanctuary. The message is clear. When a community comes together to build something sacred, the divine presence follows. We must do everything in our power to protect and honor what we have built. In doing so, we can be sure that God's presence will dwell among us. As we complete the book of Exodus this week, we say, Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazek. Be strong, and may we strengthen one another. Shabbat Shalom.